So I've been a little bit busy since the last episode, and I've decided to come in and build, or rather I decided, past tense, to come in and build a couple more cargo train stations around Vanillaville. The one we just saw was next to the modular house factory, and this one right here is next to the industrial steel plant. And the reason I did this is because basically traffic around my industrial area on this side of the city is terrible. And while I was doing that, I thought it would be a good idea to add another cloverleaf interchange to the highway and a bunch more train lines, as you can see, because I want to try and prepare for the future of this city. So the airport cargo train station that we've used here, that is next to the industrial steel plant, runs out this way and connects up to the existing train line that eventually runs out to the region. I've also got this train line that branches off, goes around this reservoir, which now has a road and a quay around it. Yes, there's a lot of things that I've been playing around with here. And this connects up to the train station next to the modular house factory. From there, I decided to run another train line out to the region here, so we have more regional train capacity. And the idea in doing all of this was to try and just reduce the traffic that goes through all of these spaces. I have made a few tweaks to the roads around here as well. Obviously, we have these little regional roads that now go out to the highway here with a new interchange, and we have these roads that go around the reservoir to another interchange that come down to this avenue to another interchange. And basically what I've been trying to do is just give my industrial traffic more avenues in the literal and metaphorical sense to get out of here, because this road has historically been terrible. Now, it's still terrible. We can clearly see it's still having a rough time and it's not doing very well, but it is doing better than it was. Obviously, traffic in here is still terrible, which isn't good. People are still waiting for ages to go anywhere, but it's still an improvement, and that's sort of what I was looking for. Now, another little thing that I decided to do between episodes was adjust these old abandoned factories. I wanted to put some trees around it, and I built a pumping service building because I did have to make some changes to this reservoir, and it did flood the entire place. So the pumping service actually had, and well, has, those are oil trucks, never mind. There we go, vacuum truck. We did have some vacuum trucks heading out to suck up some water that was pooling on some of the roads. But I took this opportunity to just run some roads around this thing and, you know, into the back of the building there. Obviously, it doesn't go anywhere. It's never going to get used. And I did the same thing on this one as well, just to make it look like this thing would have once been a factory that was used here and has since been abandoned for, you know, whatever reason. We do have a bunch of trees growing around it. We have these little parking lots in here that maybe get used now for the pumping service or the other factories. But I just thought it was a nice way to make this thing feel like it's a little bit more a part of the industrial area rather than something that just exists for absolutely no reason. It still exists for absolutely no reason, but it's aesthetically pleasing now, which is better than absolutely no reason. So now what I want to do is come down to this space and start to plan out an expansion to the city, because originally I hadn't really thought about building much out here because we couldn't. But now that we can, I want to. I don't necessarily know what I'm going to build out here, but I want to build something. Again, I have no idea what it'll be. It's going to be probably just a bunch of residential, because I do want to grow the population of the city just a little bit. And I also want to have collisions on so that I can get rid of the trees that are still in these roads. So we'll come down to about here. I think what we'll do is, do we want to go a little bit further? I think we will. We'll go another 10 units, and then we're going to cut straight across. And honestly, I'm going to go through the rocks. I'm not really too concerned about keeping those. We'll go straight through them. And I'll tell you what we're also going to do. We're going to bring a little road right out of here. If I can find myself the road I'm looking for, this one. Bring it straight out. And then this guy is just going to go straight into there. And that's basically going to be our little connection for all of this. I used the wrong road on that as well. So let's just swap you out for that one. And this is essentially just going to end up being another district. We can do some park stuff in here along the cliff, which is fine. This is going to be, well, probably two separate districts. And I do want to try and get a train in here as well. I'm not 100% sure how I'm necessarily going to do that, but I want to get a train in here. I think it'd be really interesting to have a little train connection to this space, because then what you can do is hop on a train, go into the center of the city. You could hop on a train and go up to this part of the city. I just want to get more people using the trains. I'm not going to focus too much on them because we've been doing that a lot lately, but I do want to get people using the trains because I've kind of, I don't know, man, the trains have failed miserably. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to beat around the bush. They're not doing as well as I'd hoped they would. So we'll see if we can maybe do a little something about that. I'm also going to bring a road out here because we can maybe do some unique buildings on that. And I want to see, this is now 2 separate nodes. That's really unfortunate. Okay. What if we take you back and take you out of there? Is there a way I can get this to connect together where it's not going to look terrible? I have my doubts, but I'm willing to give this a shot. Maybe if we turn off all of the zoning in this last little section, and then we use move it to go in and grab the segments only, we can sort of just shuffle this one over a little bit. So it's just a little smoother. It kind of curves into that intersection. And then of course we can use node controller just to sort of space this out a little bit, square off the ends. Maybe instead of 14.7, we go 20 meters. Ooh, that really didn't work at all. Okay. That's not what I was looking for. We'll just bring everything back to about 20, square everything off, which it is. And that seems fine. It's a big old intersection. It's not the prettiest looking thing, but that's honestly okay. I'm not really too worried about it. And it does mean that we have a nice corner for zoning right here. We have a little bit of a gap right here, maybe access to a park space and a bit of a weird corner here. We can play around with that as well. Not the end of the world. We can totally make that work. Now, before I get too carried away, I want to take a second to look at services because I'm realizing that healthcare is very much centralized. This whole part of the city down here apparently has no healthcare facilities whatsoever. The coverage is solid, but there's not really anything down here. And adding another hospital up here, I mean, I don't think we need one, but I'm probably going to build one. When it comes to fire coverage, it is a little bit more spread out, which is fantastic. So we're going to want a new fire station in here as well. When it comes to policing, it's a scarily similar story. We actually have terrible policing coverage down this way as well. So I'll tell you what we're going to do. Let's grab a high capacity police headquarters and let's go into, I love these buildings. I really, really love these buildings. I really do, but I'm going to tear a few of them out to build myself a police headquarters. I don't know which ones to tear out. Maybe these ones in the middle. Maybe these guys can go away. What if we take you guys out and we just go in here with a high capacity police headquarters? It's not the biggest building, which is honestly okay, but we'll do a police headquarters there and maybe we can do a little parking lot sort of next to it just to extend the footprint ever so slightly. I'm going to take out some of these trees and I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to extend some fences around this, just a teeny tiny little bit of landscaping around this thing to make it look a teeny tiny little bit better. And I think we'll also put a bit of fence in there so I can just move these around to get them right up against that path. And if we just go in here with a few different types of tree, maybe we'll go for a little bit of color up at this side of things, do 2 of them, maybe throw one of these guys there and there as well. And you know what? We'll throw ourselves a little young linden right about there. That seems perfectly fine. It's maybe a little bit of a bigger footprint than it needs to be, but that should give us pretty solid policing coverage down here, which is absolutely fantastic. It is actually the only police department for quite a while. That's definitely something I've been slacking on and that I might want to stay on top of. When it comes to education, elementary schools are a must-have. We have none down here as well. When it comes to high schools, that's still an elementary school. High schools are the same. And then university is terrifyingly the same. So honestly, I might skip doing anything with university education for the time being because we do have this giant university right here. And I don't want to build another one just one neighborhood over. So what we'll do today is focus on building out these 2 new districts. And then maybe next time we can go out and build, maybe on this chunk of land, build a giant university campus using a different theme to I think we used liberal arts for this one. So we can use the actual university or the technical college or something like that and build ourselves, you know, a massive campus out in the countryside. And again, it's going to be great because I can connect my trains to it. So let's get started in this district. I think we've been talking long enough about it. We need to figure out where I'm putting a train station. We're going to need some decent public transport in general with metro and buses. We need some services, but we need some people as well. So we'll start with the zoning and then go from there. So first things first, I'm going to place a high capacity hospital out here sort of on its own little set of roads and all that good stuff. I'm going to put some parking lots in here as well. I don't think we necessarily need it, but it is going to be sort of a repeat of what we did with the Rosewood Hills Hospital. It's going to have parking lots, it's going to have some parks, it's going to have some detailing, and it's going to be just on its own little lot out here so that it can do what it needs to do for pretty much this entire end of the city. So we'll go ahead and bring a pipe out there. We'll run some pipes underneath these roads as well so that they're nice and tidy, and then just connect this guy right down to about there so that this thing now has a supply of water, which is absolutely fantastic. We'll go ahead and have a look at the parking lots as well and see what we can fit in here. And can I get 2 of these guys? I absolutely can. Do I want that much surface parking in front of the hospital though? Or would that be better served as like a sort of a public space for people to chill and relax? And, you know, if they're visiting someone and they're well enough to go outside, we can have like a little park there. That seems like it would be a nicer thing to do, even if it is just right in front of the hospital. I think that would be better. So maybe parking for this particular facility could go behind the building. That might not be a terrible idea. We could maybe have this actually be a bus road so that you can get dropped off by a bus. Otherwise you drive in, you know, the entire way around the hospital. That might be the way to go with this. So I think what we'll do is we'll bring this over. We'll bring this sort of around and bring it up, and we'll level everything off eventually. And then in terms of parking, do I want to just do a multi-story back here or a couple of multi-stories? I don't think they're going to be used. I'm going to be honest. I don't think City Skylines 1 generates quite as much traffic as, or has as much need for parking. I was about to say it doesn't generate as much traffic as City Skylines 2, but I think everyone's been complaining that there's not quite as much traffic in the sequel. I don't think there's as much need for parking, so I don't know that we need 2 multi-story parking lots, but I think I'm going to go for them anyway. We'll swap them out for the ones with sort of the wood cladding on them, since I think it looks kind of nice. We'll do some detailing around those as well. Obviously, this entire space is going to need landscaping as well, but this is fine. I think this will be good. We'll have that little park in the middle, and it'll be a beautiful space that people can go to visit family, basically. And then maybe a couple of parking lots. We'll have some buildings across here. We'll have a couple of parking lots here. We'll have a park here, hospital here. Should be solid. And you know what? I think this looks absolutely perfect. This is actually something I've never used in City Skylines before. This is the Old Bridge Park. It doesn't fit perfectly in the middle of this thing, but with a little bit of move it, I can shuffle it over. So it does, in fact, fit in here really, really nicely. It lines up nicely with the middle of everything. We get some buildings coming in. I love this. It's absolutely perfect. Nice little pond, nice little bridge, nice little gazebo, a bunch of trees. Some of them I put in there. And I shuffled things around a little bit. I added another large decorative parking lot. We have the multi-story decorative parking lot here. And we also have a large pedestrian area service point, because this entire thing is now a pedestrian area, because I wanted to get a bus road through here, which is a pedestrian road. I'm pretty sure that'll be fine. I don't think it matters too much if that's a pedestrian road. I don't think ambulances will be stopped from coming out of there, so that should be all right. But what I'm going to go ahead and do is just make sure that all of my road markings are doing what I want them to do. So we don't need multiple lanes going forward. We'll have dedicated turning lanes sort of the entire way around here. We'll do sort of the same thing here and here just to make sure everything's set up nicely. And that seems fine. That's going to be our little hospital space. The last thing I want to do with this is I want to go in here and just have some kind of little border around it. So we're going to go to about here. We'll use 2 units the entire way around. So up to about there, and we'll go to about here as well. And the reason I want to do this is just simply because I think it'll look a little bit better if we have this thing not isolated, but a little bit isolated from everything that's going on. So we'll bring this up to about here, and I need to figure out the measurements on this. We could go to about here. I'm not too worried if it gets a little bit smaller on this side. It's not going to be perfectly symmetrical anyway, which is honestly okay. So we'll just bring this around, and that seems fine. We'll take out all of the excess trees that we don't need. Obviously, a little bit more landscaping is going to be needed there as well. But what we can do is grab all of the nodes, grab all of the buildings, grab all of the trees, and we can say that I want to grab all of this. And then if I level it out to object height, we'll say hospital. It brings those bits of path up right there. And then what we can also do is just go in here and say, you know, here's a connection, here's a connection. We'll do the same thing on the other side as well. So here's a connection and there's a connection. And if we want to, we can eventually connect this out. In fact, we could just connect it out like this. We could connect it out like this. We can connect it out to here. We could connect it out to here as well. I don't really know what this is going to do for this district in the long run, because this is now a lot of space that's being dedicated to essentially a hospital. But I would imagine this will make it a little bit more walkable, which is very exciting. And given I'm not going to put a 4-way intersection right there, we'll just bring some path out like this. We'll bring some path sort of down this way as well. Chop those out. And there's another way for people to walk around here. And I think we'll do sort of the same thing. You know what? We'll leave this bit open actually. But that's a lot of ways for people to walk around here, which is fantastic. We've also got some weird zoning going on here. So let me just cut you out of there. And let me very, very quickly just fix. Ooh. That doesn't want to get fixed. Okay, does this fix it? That does fix it. All right, I think what happened there is I might have messed with this corner using node controller, which, do we have like 2 weird nodes going on here? What's going on with that? This looks like a really, really sharp thing. I think we'll extend this to like 15 and that just makes it a little bit of a smoother corner. There's actually a lot of people walking through here, which is very exciting. But I think this is good. This gives us a lot of space for people to walk around, enjoy this district, enjoy this neighborhood, get into the hospital, do what they got to do. I still need more services in here, but I like this. This is good. This feels like I'm actually planning out a district here. I'm not, I'm winging it, but it feels like I'm planning it, and that's exciting. So when it comes to policing, I'm going to go a little bit simpler, and we're just going to go with a regular old police headquarters. Obviously, we're doing some pipes along this road as well, so we'll get that up to about there for now. I would kind of like to get another police helicopter depot in here. I don't know if that's a great idea, but I do like the idea of trying to get something in here. Maybe just the regular one rather than the high capacity. I think the regular one's a little bit smaller, not by much, but it's a little bit smaller. And that's sort of what I'm looking for. So I think what we'll do is we're going to measure some roads here and see if we can figure out exactly how big this is all going to need to be. So we're going to just do this. I'm sort of winging it for now. And what I'm looking to do is bring that down by about 4. I want this thing to live right about here. So what I'm going to need to do is put a road in this spot, put a road in this spot, take out this one, take out you. And then I should be able to place this thing right about there, which is kind of fantastic. I wanted these buildings to sort of be back-to-back-ish with each other. I'm kind of wondering, though, if I could get a little bit cheeky, actually, and instead do a road here and then flip this. Oh, how would I want to flip this around? Is there a world in which I can get this to behave the way I want it to? I'd have to sort of shuffle this to the right if I wanted these to look a little bit more back to back, which again, I think is doable. If I shuffle this over to like here, it puts them much closer together, which I think is good. It does mean that this thing might need a dedicated road, which I'm not above doing. So I think maybe we go for that. Maybe we bring ourselves a little road sort of out like this, which gives us a connection to the helicopter pad, which is pretty cool. We can maybe turn it into a road to the median, and then maybe just shuffle this over a little bit so it looks like it's right at the end of the road. And I'm sort of okay with that, actually. We're kind of creating another little yard here for policing, kind of similar to the space we created for the hospital. I'm not going to go quite that far, but I don't mind this. I do wonder what I can put in this space, though. Maybe another high capacity one, because it would fit. That seems like overkill, to be brutally honest. I don't think we need it. It also looks like it has a helipad on the roof, which is very interesting. But you know what? I think we'll go for it. I think that's fine. And there we go. We have ourselves a little police space. We have some fire space over here as well. I decided to not get too carried away with this one because I figured we've taken up a lot of space for services already, so it would be a little bit excessive. So they kind of get smaller as we've gone along. We have this giant space for a hospital, a little bit more space than we need for policing, and then about the right amount of space for firefighting. I've also decided to extend the district on this side of this little section of highway. It's now on this road as well, which means we're going to have these lovely wall-to-wall buildings right in here. So this highway is actually going to be really nicely surrounded by buildings at some point, which I'm very excited to see. Now, in other news, I think it might be a really good idea to get another couple of avenue sections into this space, because otherwise we're going to be using essentially one avenue for all of this. So I'm just going to bring something down here to, you know, have a higher capacity for all the roads that we build in this area. This space is probably going to be a little bit less dense than I had originally planned, but I'm thinking we can still get away with a decent amount of density because I'm thinking we're going to lean towards offices and commercial in here and then residential sort of down here. So what we'll do is try and pack things together just a little bit tighter than perhaps I was originally thinking. So we'll bring something up here. We're not necessarily going to stick with all these roads with medians, but I'm just going to use it for the time being to kind of lay things out. And we'll keep some of these kind of empty corners. We can do some park space in there and have some fun with that. But I think my idea sort of across the board here is going to be to try and just get as much into all of this as I possibly can. Now, how does this work out? That's going to have a little bit of an awkward space there. I guess I could bring a road down, or I could just bring a road up to here, maybe take this part out completely and have all of this be a little park area. I don't know if I love that, but I think we'll give it a shot. We'll do similar here, and maybe some of this kind of corner can be park space as well. We could, if I wanted to, we could actually put an actual park in there as well so that it gets some use and people actually walk around it. But I think that right there is going to be one little space for a bunch of buildings. And then down here is going to be a pretty similar story. In fact, do I want to come off of here? Do I want it to be an angle? I don't think I'm gonna. I think I'm going to keep this as neat as I can so that we can hopefully get kind of as much into this space as is possible. So we'll do something like this. And then maybe down here, we will do just one little section of road so that we can get some zoning in there. Again, some park space if we happen to want it. But I think that's okay. I think I'm sort of okay with that. I might be tempted to bring, ooh, actually, if I bring that road over and I sort of continue it straight over, we could take this right back. We can replace this road, hopefully, with something like that. I actually like that. Again, we have some space for a park kind of thing in here, some trees along this path, a little bit of detailing in there. I think that's pretty solid. I think that's what we're going to go for. I've also got some trees on the roads. We're going to have to go in and take out all the props and all the trees, but for right now, this is totally fine. Let's do something similar with the remaining 4 spaces. Let's get some zoning in here and let's get this space to build up a little bit. So before we actually zone this entire space, I happened to remember that I wanted to bring some metro out here. And then I realized we actually have a line that comes straight out from Metro Square. It's this one right here. And it's kind of perfectly placed to get a metro connection out here. So I think what I'm going to do is try and find a metro station that's going to look the part. We do actually have the Railroads of Japan pack to play with a little bit here. And I think I might do that because we have the classic metro terminal right here, which is quite large, but it's a cool looking building regardless. And honestly, I'm sort of inclined to say that we are probably only going to have one metro station in here anyway, because it can kind of cover the entire space. We're going to have buses going around here, and I think that'll be cool. We could do more. We absolutely could do more. We have this nice little bus depot as well, which is pretty cool looking. I think we'll definitely place that somewhere. But I think what we're going to do is go for this large metro station. I think it's pretty cool looking, and I've never used it before. And honestly, it sits on that corner beautifully. So 100% that's what we're going to do. Now let's go ahead and grab ourselves some metro lines right about here. We want to go underground just a little bit with this guy down to a certain depth, down to about there. So we'll line this up, and really I'm thinking we just sort of bring this thing out 100 and whatever, 180 degrees. What is that? 57 units. That's fine. I think we just bring this over. We can chop out this bit. And yes, that's a sharp turn, but it's me. And by this point, we're all aware, right? I'm not too worried about how metro lines look at the best of times. I think this was one of the few cities, yeah, where I did do a lot more curves than I usually do. So I guess we'll go in here and I guess we'll curve this. All right, we'll do it. We'll do it kind of properly. We'll just try to line this up as best we can. And actually, I can just cheat and use the I can just cheat and do this. Right? That's better. There we go. That doesn't look terrible. And that does give us a metro line that runs out to the hospital and everything that's going to be out here. So that's fantastic news. And then what I think we're going to do is we're going to go in here and get ourselves some buses. Now, I think what we'll do is we'll set up a bus line that starts in front of the hospital. And it's been a minute since I've done bus lines in City Skylines the first. So I'm just going to do something that kind of goes pretty nicely around this space. It's going to have some stops pretty regularly, probably more than we need. Again, I really can't remember just how many City Skylines one happens to need, but we'll space these out as best as I can. I really, do I want to go down there? I think we'll share this stop just so that I'm not putting too much traffic on this road. And then we'll sort of come back over. We can stop right in front of the metro station, then right back into the hospital. And honestly, that should be fine. I don't think we need to go too much crazier than that. And then we'll sort of bring one from the hospital down into this other space that can kind of stop in front of the metro thing as well. So that should be all right. Just a little loop that can get you around this district if you don't want to walk, which honestly you could. There's plenty of pedestrian paths. Now, speaking of places that people might want to go, let's start figuring out some zoning here. And let's figure out if I'm going to do a district theme on this, because I don't hate the idea of doing that. We do have a Korean themed district somewhere. I want to say it was this one has the Korean theme on it. Yeah, Heart of Korea. Honestly, I'm kind of here for it. I don't remember. Does that have residential buildings? I don't know. Cherry Park also has Heart of Korea. It does have some residential buildings in there. Do I want to go super high rise with this? I feel like it shouldn't be super duper high rise. We might want to go something a little bit different. I don't necessarily want to repeat the wall to wall buildings though. Do we maybe do the Brooklyn and Queens style? I guess we can experiment. We have the demand for it. So maybe we throw Brooklyn and Queens onto this and see how it turns out. I think I'm willing to give it a shot. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. We can always bulldoze everything and try again. Now, just looking at this before it even builds, I'm immediately thinking this is just way too much commercial zoning. So I think we're going to go in and we're going to chop out some of it and replace it with residential. I wasn't really planning on doing residential in here, but I think it's going to be a good idea. And I think we'll maybe do the same just over here as well. We'll do a little bit of residential zoning there. We'll do a little bit of residential zoning. You know what? We'll not do it there because that's going to be a little close to the helipad. We'll keep those bits as commercial, and then maybe in here as well we'll do some residential. So that's going to be a nice little mix. It's still a lot of commercial zoning. We have more residential than we do commercial demand, but most of this area down here is going to be residential. So that's probably fine. I think the last thing I'm going to do is, do I want to do a park in here? Do I want to have these spaces actually be park areas? I think actually we're going to pass. I don't think we are going to do park areas in here. So we'll run the simulation. We'll let things build. We'll see how this turns out. We have a metro connection. We have the buses able to go around. We could probably go in and change out a bunch of the priorities in this entire space. So that's a lot of these little side roads are just going to give way to the main avenue, since there's not going to be that much traffic on them. And I really don't think we need this many traffic lights. So maybe sort of a similar story here. These guys kind of give way to that main road. This one as well, I'm going to say similar story. We'll do the same here. We'll do the same here. We'll do the same here. And let's get you set up properly. And we'll do the same here. And then these guys will keep traffic lights on those. This one is not going to have traffic lights either. And that should be all right. I totally forgot to do pipes. Totally forgot to do pipes. City Skylines 2 has me spoiled rotten. Oh, so it turns out I'm an idiot and totally forgot that the Brooklyn and Queens pack only has residential buildings. It doesn't have anything else apparently. So that's not going to work. That's frustrating, but it's not going to work. I guess we can go for Heart of Korea is what we'll do. We'll just go for the high-rise stuff. I could do a high-rise ban on this district, but I don't know if that's going to be a good idea. I'm also going to encourage biking because I can, and we'll see what happens. I'm pretty sure most of these buildings are about to get bulldozed, which isn't good, and we don't have much demand, so this might not work at all, but I think it's just what we're going to do. We're just going to have to deal with the fact that, yeah, the style and the theme here is going to be a little bit maybe bigger and fancier than I otherwise wanted it to be, but we'll let that space build up. Let's go down into this district. We'll start to paint in the district, get some roads in here. This one's going to be a lot simpler than this space because this one is kind of going to exist largely to boost the population. And by the way, I didn't mention this, but the reason I want to boost the population is because we're not making money. And we're not making money because I've been sort of free-forming this and playing it a little bit more, well, freely than I should have been. and I've not really been too concerned about money. But we definitely need to look into why we're spending so much and not making as much. And I think part of that might be industry. I think part of that might be the industrial traffic, but hopefully it's something we can figure out. It's also probably because I built, you know, a couple of airports and a whole other town without any real consideration of the city's budget as well. So anyway, that's why I want to boost the population. I want that tax money. Alright, so there is still a decent amount of land that needs to be built on. It turns out that the residential demand wasn't quite as high as I hoped it was, which, I mean, was kind of obvious, so it was wishful thinking. But at the very least, this space is starting to fill in. We have gone with the Brooklyn and Queens style buildings. I've got a few parking lots in here as well, just because I realized that there is very, very little roadside parking in any of these spaces. So I went a little harder on parking lots than I usually would. And I think that's something I do need to remember with City Skylines too, is to remember to put in parking lots, because they are needed a lot more in that game than they are in this one. But honestly, I'm kind of pleased with how this has turned out. I know it's just a bit more of a generic, not super generic, but it's just another district. I'm well aware, but I like what we've done with sort of making the hospital and this park sort of a center point of Sunset District. I like that we've got sort of space dedicated to all of the emergency services in this space as well. And then down here is sort of just padding the population a little bit. I want to try and get up to 100,000, if not more people in Vanillaville at some points. And what's more is the metro, just by the way, is relatively popular. 653 people in the last week. There's a good amount of people using the buses as well. And if we have a look, there's a good amount of people waiting down there to head into the city. Now, I did mention that I wanted to put some trains in here, and we haven't done that, but there is still room to do that. Not necessarily today, because we're going to wrap things up here in just a moment. But I think what we could do is put a train station sort of here. Just for example, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing it. But just for example, there, and then run the line sort of up and in this way. So you could hop on a train and get an express route straight to the middle of the city, rather than hopping on the metro and having to deal with it stopping. I mean, it doesn't stop that many times. It stops 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 5th one is Metro Square. So I don't think the train would be all that much better, but you know, that's the idea. I want the trains going around. I really like the look of the elevated trains just going through all of these different spaces. I just think it looks cool. And so even if, you know, that attitude, the just think it looks cool attitude, that's why we're not making money, because I've built all these friggin' train stations that we don't need and that don't do anything. The cargo ones do. They're actually quite busy, surprisingly, but the passenger ones. I mean, the passenger line that comes out to here is it popular? Okay, this one's actually, yeah, this, you know what? This one's not so bad. This one actually has people wanting to use it, but that's because it's people that are getting on this guy to go to the airport to get on a metro to go to the city. So it's not like it's any better. Really, what I need to do if we want to make the trains efficient is, I don't think there's any way to do it, really. I mean, there's obviously is, but I think the metro is just too popular and too quick to get around for the trains to ever do anything significant, but they look cool, right? That's the idea. They look cool. They look interesting. They're fun to look at, and you can see them versus the metro. So that's my goal. That's what I want to do with the trains, but that's not going to be a thing for today. That's going to be a thing for maybe the next episode, maybe the one after that. I'm not 100% sure what I want to do or where I want to go with Vanillaville just at the moment. I do think we'll probably build the city up roughly to these train lines here. I think we'll start to fill in some of this space. I would like to tear out some of this industry and start to build industry further out, kind of like what we did down here. I think we could maybe sort of continue some industrial zoning into this space and sort of around this reservoir that I've decided to call it, and then maybe get rid of this industry that's in here. Now, in doing that, we're probably going to make traffic on some of these roads worse. But my hope would be that we can sort of encourage this traffic, especially if built out here, to hop onto the highway and kind of go around to get into the city. I don't think they're going to do that, but we can find out is what we can do. I think maybe a fair chunk of this space could stand to be redeveloped a little bit, maybe bring this road sort of straight through rather than sort of curving it around and all that stuff. So that's something I'm thinking about, but let me know in the comments below what we should be or what you'd like to see us heading towards with this city. I'm sort of not lost for ideas, but I don't have as many as I'd like, and I'm not quite done with Cities Skylines 1 just yet. I'm really enjoying playing this again. So let me know in the comments below. We did talk about building a university out here. That's one idea. We have just talked about sort of an industrial revamp. That's another idea, but let me know what you'd like to see in the comments. And with that in mind, we're going to leave it there for today. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. It has been an absolute pleasure as always. And as always, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.